What's up, everybody? My name is Paddock, and today I'm going to show you 3 simple steps for great voice leading. If you enjoy my YouTube content, I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and click the bell for notifications. As you can see, today I am playing my tenor sax. If you'd like to see me do some more tutorials on the tenor sax, leave me a comment below that says tenor sax. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you 3 simple steps that you can use as an exercise to work on voice leading. If you are looking for a tutorial on what voice leading is or how it works, I've already done one of those and I'll put the video link in the description. But as a quick recap, when it comes to voice leading, we're talking about how you move from one chord to the next when you're improvising. And there are 2 simple things that you want to think about when you're first starting off in your voice leading journey. The first thing is you want to move by the smallest interval possible. And the second thing is you want to give as much information about the chord as possible. Now, to give as much information as possible, you want to really think about your 3rd degree and your 7th degree. Those are the notes in your chord that are going to give the most information. So with that in mind, let's look at the first 5 measures of the jazz standard Just Friends. The first chord we have is a D major 7 chord, so the notes in that chord are D, F sharp, A, and C sharp. The second chord is a D minor 7, so we're going to lower the 3rd and 7th by a half step. And we're also going to talk about that a lot when it comes to your voice leading. So the notes in the D minor 7 would be D, F, A, and C. And then from there we go to a G7. The notes in that chord are G, B, D, and F. And then from there we kind of go to a surprise chord of an A major 7. The notes in the A major 7 chord are A, C sharp, E, and G sharp. So the first thing we want to do is look at what's going on in the chords. So we start off with a D major 7 chord that transitions into a D minor 7 chord. Now when you see the D minor 7 chord, you can see that that is followed by a G7 chord. So that's kind of telling us that we might be doing a 2, 5, 1 in C, but we don't go to C, we go to A major 7. So that's kind of the surprise. And that's why I wanted to use this song, because it has a little bit of a surprise at the end. So we're going to be working on how we can make that A major 7 sound great when we transition to it using our voice leading. Now that we know the notes and the chords and we've analyzed how the chords are working together, let's talk about the first simple step for working on voice leading. And that is starting on each chord degree and seeing how the voice leading works. So we're going to start on this first chord, which is a D major 7. So in D major 7, the 1 is a D. When we transition to the D minor 7, the 1 is also a D. When we transition from the D minor 7 to the G7, the closest movement would be going to the 5th, which is also a D. So for the first 4 measures, we have a D. So those chords don't move by very much. However, it doesn't give us hardly any information. So that voice leading wouldn't be something that we'd be interested in working on for this exercise. Then, of course, from the G7, it's going to go to A major 7. So you take that D and move to a C sharp. So the D to a C sharp isn't too bad, but we don't want the D for 4 measures. So this is what that voice leading would sound like if I just played that D over the first 4 chords and then moved to the C sharp. As you can hear, that is not very interesting and there's not a lot going on. Now, if you were playing a solo, there would be a way that you could make that sound cool, but for this exercise, we're just looking to find the good voice leading notes. If you're watching this video, I'm assuming you're trying to make your improvisation sound better and figure out how chords work together. If that's the case, I'd like to invite you to check out the Paddock Sax School. In the Sax School, I have an entire section dedicated to improvisation. We start off with 1-note solos and step by step work our way into more complex chord changes. Along the way, you'll learn about how chords work together, what tonal centers are, and of course, voice leading. If you're interested in checking it out, I'll put a link to the Sax School in the video description. The next interval in the D major 7 chord would be the 3rd, which would be an F sharp. And if we look at the D minor 7, we would move from an F sharp to an F natural. So moving by a half step is always a good thing. Then from the D minor 7, we could go to the flat 7 of the G7, which is also an F natural. So we would have an F sharp for 2 measures, then an F natural for 2 measures, and then from there we could go to the 5th of the A major 7, which would be an E, and we would do that for 2 measures. So we have voice leading by a half step, and we're playing each of these voice leading notes for 2 measures. Now, it's not really going to give us a ton of information because we're not going to hear the chord movement that well, but it's going to sound okay. And whenever you're going from a major chord to that same minor chord, transitioning between the third is always going to sound good. Take a listen to what this voice leading sounds like when I start on the third. That sounds pretty good, and it's definitely an option, but let's take a look at these other 2 chord tones first. So now let's take a look from the 5th. So the 5th of D is an A, then we would go to D minor 7, and the 5th is also an A. Then we don't have a half step, so we either go up to the B or down to the G, and then go back to an A. And out of these 5 measures, we'd be playing an A for 4 of them. And the A is the 5th of the D major 7 and the D minor 7, and the 5th is not that important of a chord tone. Take a listen to what this voice leading sounds like. That doesn't really tell us much at all, so that would not be an option. We wouldn't want to do that at all. Now let's take a look at the 7th of the D major 7. That would be a C sharp. Then when we go to D minor 7, we could change that C sharp into a C natural. Then we go from the D minor 7 to the G7. We can transition from the minor 7th, the C natural, to the 3rd, which is the B, and that's always a great transition, 7th to a 3rd or 3rd to a 7th. Then from the G7, we could go up to the C sharp or down to the A. So this is going to give us a lot of information, and we're moving by a half step for most of the chords. Take a listen to what this one sounds like. That one sounds really good. So I'm going from the C sharp, then to the C natural, then to the B, and then I could go up to the C sharp or down to the A, and I chose to do both. Now that we found the best voice leading notes that we can find, the next step is going to be to add in chord tones. So when we're playing the D major 7, we're going to start on a C sharp, we're going to make the C sharp the most important note, then we're going to move to the D minor 7, we're going to use the notes in the D minor 7 chord, but we're going to make the C natural the most important note. Then we're going to move to the G7. When we hit the G7, we're going to use the notes in the G7 chord, but we're going to make the B the most important note. Then when we transition into the A, we're going to use those chord tones, but we're going to make either the C sharp or the A or both of them the most important note. Take a listen to what this voice leading sounds like when we add in the chord tones. When I do that second step of this exercise, you can really hear the voice leading, you can really hear the chords change, and you can hear the movement in between them. Now, the one thing that people get confused about when it comes to voice leading is they think the voice leading notes need to be right next to each other. So when you play between the D major 7 and the D minor 7, they think that your C sharp has to always be right next to the C natural. Now, if you do that, that's going to sound really good, but you can also do voice leading by bringing out the main note. So if I make my C sharp sound really strong when I'm playing over the D major 7, if I go to the D minor 7 and I make the C natural sound really strong, it doesn't necessarily matter if the C sharp is right next to it. It just matters that I'm making the C sharp my strong note over the D major 7 and the C natural my strong note over the D minor 7. Now, I would suggest practicing this step a whole bunch of times until you feel really comfortable with it. And also feel free to do it on the other chord tones that don't sound quite as good, just to work on that voice leading as well. But once you get this step down really well, the next step is just adding in the other notes of the scale around it, or some chromaticism, just adding in more stuff than just your chord tones and your voice leading. So this is what that would sound like when I bring out the voice leading starting on the C sharp. So I'm going to start on my 7th, and I add in some more scale tones and maybe some chromaticism, but I'm making those voice leading notes my main part of the solo. And those are your 3 simple steps to help develop great voice leading. So the first step is find the chord tone that is going to give you the most information and move from chord to chord in the smallest interval. The second step is use those voice leading notes and add in some chord tones. And your third step would be adding in the rest of the scale as well as some chromaticism. If you use this exercise to practice your voice leading, you're going to master the concept in no time at all. Thanks for taking the time to check out this video. If you'd like to dive deeper into my saxophone world, I'd like to invite you to check out the Scott Paddock Sax School, where I will take the guesswork out of what to practice, how to practice it, and what to practice next, and help take your sax playing to the next level.